A year ago, I spent $500 on what might be the worst EG I've ever seen. The roof was completely destroyed, the shell had structural damage, rust was everywhere. And almost everyone I knew told me I was insane for buying it. And honestly, they probably had a point. But over the last few months, this project has undergone its biggest transformation yet. We sandblasted the entire chassis, hunted down replacement panels across the country, sacrificed multiple donor cars, fabricated missing structural sections from scratch, and ultimately replaced the entire roof. And just when we were finally ready for paint, everything nearly fell apart. My man, if you've been following this build, you know this car as the world's worst Civic EG. The last few videos focused on individual jobs, so instead of splitting everything into multiple episodes, I wanted to put all the major milestones together in one video. And if you've already watched some of the previous updates, I've added chapters so you can jump straight to the newest content. Let's get to it. For everyone new to the channel, this is my first project car, a $500 EG3 that most people would have walked away from immediately. At some point in its life, the car ended up on its roof. Then it spent nearly 2 years sitting exactly like that before I bought it and started tearing it apart. The deeper we looked, the worse things got. The roof was beyond repair, the quarter panels were gone, and some of the structural damage was honestly shocking. Bottoms of the pillars had simply disappeared. This wasn't cosmetic anymore. This was structural. And that's exactly why everyone thought I was insane. Looking back, I can understand why. The car was a complete disaster, but for some reason I just couldn't stop thinking about what it could become. The funny thing is that this car started life as the most poverty spec model Honda sold in Europe, an EG3. Basic, everything. But my goal was never to restore it as an EG3. I wanted to build something much closer to the Civic I always wanted. That meant collecting parts from higher spec models and replacing almost everything. By the time this project is finished, there won't be much EG3 left in it. There was just one problem. Almost nothing on the original car was worth saving, so the search began. Finding clean EG parts in 2025 and 26 isn't exactly easy. Sometimes it meant driving for hours. Sometimes it meant digging through dusty barns. At times it felt less like restoring a Civic and more like a treasure hunt. At this point, I wasn't looking for perfect parts. I was looking for the best starting point I could find. Some of them had dents, some had scratches, some had damage that wasn't obvious until I got them home. Earlier in the series, I mentioned how important was a sunroof for this build. And that's exactly why this donor became so important. The original roof was beyond saving, but the donor roof gave the project a second chance. Replacing a bumper is one thing, replacing an entire roof is something else entirely. This was by far the biggest repair of the entire build. Now I need to be honest here. I'm not a bodywork specialist. I'm not a professional restorer. My day job is UX design, which is exactly why I was incredibly grateful to have experienced people helping throughout this stage of the project. Some of these repairs simply wouldn't be possible without them. Countless measurements, countless checks, and eventually the donor roof became part of the car. Of course, the roof wasn't the only thing needing love. Lots of this footage never made it into previous videos. I deliberately saved it for this video because this was where the project finally started looking like a solid shell again. One of the biggest challenges was repairing the bottoms of the pillars. Years of rust had completely eaten away some sections. Fortunately, I had help from someone with lots of experience in bodywork. Instead of covering up the problem, he fabricated the missing sections from scratch.
We also installed new side rockers that I sourced from eBay. But before any of these parts were welded onto the car for good, every mating surface was protected with weld-through primer to give the metal a fighting chance against rust in the future. While we were there, the inner wheel arches received plenty of attention as well. These are areas that most people will never see, but they are critical if you want the shell to stay healthy for years to come. Finally, we replaced the front panel. Another important step that brought us one step closer to turning this battered shell back into a proper Civic. While trying to remove the compensator arm bolt, I ended up breaking the captive nut loose from its sliding housing inside the pickup point. Naturally, there was no way to get to it without cutting an access hole. After repairing the housing and making sure that the nut could still move freely for alignment adjustments, we welded the pickup point back up and closed everything off again. At this point, most of the structural repairs were finally behind us. The rust was gone, the metal work was complete, and for the first time the shell actually felt solid again. But there was one thing I didn't want to overlook: protecting all of that hard work. Because let's be honest, it would make very little sense to spend months repairing rust, only to watch it slowly come back after a few years down the road. That's why we spent a lot of time focusing on the underside of the chassis. Every repaired area, every weld, every seam, and every vulnerable section received the attention it deserved. The OEM retractable antenna didn't really fit the direction of the build, so we deleted the mud. I already know some of you won't agree with this decision, and that's perfectly fine. Feel free to roast me in the comments. With all the structural repairs finally behind us, it was time to move on to the stage that would ultimately determine how the finished car would look. Bodywork. This is where countless hours of sanding, filling, checking surfaces, and sanding some more began. Every repaired area, every replacement panel, and every weld had to be blended together and made as straight as possible before paint. It's not the most exciting part of the process, but it's absolutely critical. If you remember the original front bumper, you'll know it was completely destroyed and beyond saving. Fortunately, I managed to find another OEM bumper hidden away in a barn attic. But as is usually the case with 30-year-old parts, it wasn't perfect either. The license plate holes had been drilled out far larger than necessary, and the vent openings had already been cut up by a previous owner. Since I'm most likely going to install brake cooling ducts later on, I decided to remove the vent housings completely and clean everything up properly. It still needed some work, but compared to what I started with, it was a huge improvement. The doors were another reminder that even the parts we considered good still needed a lot of work. There were a few small surface rust spots that initially didn't look too concerning. However, once we started sanding and prepping the panels, those small spots quickly turned into something much bigger than expected. To make sure the problem was dealt with properly, we stripped the affected areas all the way down to bare metal and removed every trace of corrosion we could find. Once everything was clean, the lower section was sealed with epoxy primer to isolate the metal from moisture and give it the best possible protection for the future. It was definitely more work than I expected, but it was far better to deal with it now than discover it bubbling back through the paint a few years down the road. After months of cutting, welding, grinding, and bodywork, we were finally ready for paint. The boot was booked, everything was prepared. The finish line was finally in sight. Then I got a phone call. And just 5 days before the paint, the guy who was supposed to paint the car told me he couldn't do it. And after everything we've done to get to that point, it just felt like a punch in the stomach. At that point, we had two options: delay the project indefinitely or create our own solution. So we transformed my workshop into a paint booth. Plastic sheets, fans, lights, and a lot of optimism. A few hours later, the workshop looked nothing like a workshop anymore. Alright, time for a confession. I asked you guys to vote on a color, and Milano Red won by a mile. The funny thing is that I thought I was gonna choose red too. But as soon as I saw both colors in person, I just couldn't stop thinking about the gray. So yes, I completely ignored the poll. But before you roast me in the comments, let me show you why. But before you guys head to the comments to point out the imperfections, let's talk about them first. Going into this paint job, we already knew it wouldn't come out of the boot perfect. Some orange peel, dust nibs, and small imperfections were always expected. In fact, the plan from the day one was to wet sand and polish the entire car once the build is further along. And somehow, despite all the preparation, we still discovered a few dents only after the paint was finished. Not exactly what you want to find after months of bodywork, but that's the reality of restoration projects. And overall, I am incredibly happy with how it turned out. Looking back at where this project started, it's honestly hard to believe how far it's come. What started as $500 wreck that everyone told me not to buy has finally became a solid foundation for the build I always envisioned. And I couldn't have gotten it to this point without some extremely talented people who helped me along the way. And thank you to everyone who's been following this project from the beginning. Now I have one question. Did I make the right choice ignoring the Milano red vote? Let me know in the comments. Because next time we're finally going to start putting the world's worst Civic back together. See you in the next one.